Okay. ॐ त्वं हीनः पितावसो
ॐ
त्वं हि
त्वं पितावसो
त्वं माता शतक्रतो बभूविथ
त्वं
त्वं
माता शतक्रतो
शततो
बहुविधा
बभूवुः
अधा ते सुम्नमीमहे
अधाते सुनवीमहे।
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति
ॐ
ॐ
शान्ति
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 शान्तिः
शान्तिः। Hmm.
So let me start by asking you people if you had any questions.
I have one.
Yeah.
Um, Between Nirakar and Sakar,
Mm-hmm.
Sakar you said is with form, right? So I didn't understand that with what form.
So the form you will see now, you will start seeing as we do some more verses. Per se, God does not have any form. Okay,
Yeah, that's
so
what.
uh, okay, to give you a preview, the universe itself can be seen in a way as the form of God.
Okay, okay.
Just like
All like,
your body can be seen as a form of you, who are again without a form, actually speaking, the soul. But we associate this a particular soul with that body. So similarly, you can associate God with the universe.
all the creation,
Yeah,
right?
the whole creation.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes. Okay. So is para and apara vidya kind of clear to you?
Yeah, I think so. Hmm.
Yeah, interestingly, Uttara, I
Yeah.
don't know if I can only see Kala here with the Tamil. I don't know whether she reads Tamil or
Yeah,
in Tamil language, we have this, para, apara, normally referring to God. Taimanavar from the 17th century, who is a Tamil poet and priest,
Mm-hmm.
he has used this term to denote to God, para parame.
Mm-hmm.
oh,
But that is paraparam. So that's paraparam is normally used as a as a one word to refer to God, and
Mm-hmm.
within that the split is param, which means in Tamil endless.
Okay.
Okay. So, and then apara in Tamil means beyond that. So you are endless and even beyond that.
Done that.
So that's how that term is used, though. And there is an interesting argument whether the term itself, paraparam, is a Sanskrit word or a Tamil word. There are interesting, points and counterpoints to and for and against. Some people say, it's a pure Sanskrit word and used in Tamil. And then some people give it as this split meaning and say this is a Tamil word
So I
only.
would
But
actually go with the first uh, understanding. But to tell you a little more, actually, para in Sanskrit means quite a few things. So one of the meanings is beyond, which is
beyond.
applicable here.
Uh,
So
okay.
that is why the apara is the knowledge of the world, and para is that of something which is beyond knowledge. In fact, if we can call it that, knowledge in the sense of bookish knowledge, something which is an experiential knowledge which is uh, beyond Rig Veda, Atharveda, etc., Yajurveda, etc. Okay, so I have added something to the Shanti part today, which I
Oh,
wanted to share with you to bring out the meaning which has come up in that uh, verse. You can look it up later. Please download the Shanti part once again. At the end of the Shanti part, how is this? Why is this not here? So give me a minute, please.
So you added a third verse, right?
Yes, yes. Can you see it?
No, I'm just opening it separately here.
Anyway, I'll share it from the original. I seem to have done some garbad. So this is another verse which is to be found in Rig Veda, Atharveda, and also in Shvetashvatar Upanishad, which says Ruchu Akshare Parame Vyuman Yasmin Deva Adhi Vishve Nishedo Yas Tamna Veda Kim Rucha Karishyati Ya Ittat Vidus Ta Ime Samasate. That means that this Richaha, that means this Akshara. This Akshara again, he's being called God is being called Akshara here as well. So the this Akshara who is known from the Richas, that is mantras of the Vedas, and who is Param, who is beyond everything, and who actually it is Param Vyoman, Vyomani. That means the subtlest of all space. Yasmin Deva Adi Vishve Nishedu, in which, in this subtle space of this Akshar, that is God, all the Devas, that is all the material objects, are located. Again, see note the usage of Vishve. So Vishve Deva. Nishedu and Adi, he is residing on top of them, he is beyond them. So he is known from the Vedic mantras. We come to know about him properly from the Vedic mantras. See, even if the Vedas are not there, God has kept one little something in our hearts, in our minds, which tells us that yes, there is somebody more supreme, who is beyond everything, whom we are not seeing, and who is with us all the time and controlling our destinies. So, but through the Vedas, we come to know him better. So this says now, yes, tam na Veda, kim richa karishyati. If a person does not come to know him by studying the Vedic mantras, then what can you cannot blame the Vedic mantras. What can the Vedic mantras do if even after studying them, you don't come to know him? And the ones who come to know him, ya ittad viduhu, te ime samasate. They then reside in him only. So this is actually what is being told in this Upanishad as well. It is saying that you can study all that Rig Veda and Yajurved, Sam and Athar, but that does not mean that you will come to know him. You will come to know all this knowledge, but the knowing him is something really beyond, which requires something else. This has actually come up in one other Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad or Brihadaranyak, in which Narad comes to another sage and says that I hear that you know Brahma, so can you please tell me about him? So then that sage asks him, what is it that you have studied? So he says that I have studied Rig Veda, Yajurveda, etc., and he gives a whole list of some 25 granthas, which the main granthas, which are supposed to be studied by a spiritual seeker. He mentions all of them, and yet he is saying that I don't know this. So this is actually the thing which a lot of Upanishads are saying, that this studying these texts is just not good enough. You have to go beyond them. Okay. So since you folks know everything, I want to ask you, in the sixth Kandika, do you think it is describing Paravidya?
Yeah, certainly. That's the one that I have to look whether I'm correct or not. The one that says about the spider and it
No,
consuming it.
the one
No.
before
no.
that. The one before that, which says
Okay.
that God is invisible to the senses and he is
Uh-uh.
ungraspable by the action
Yeah,
senses.
it gives
That no, but
almost all of the attributes, but not attributes. Because God doesn't really have those, qualities, or is beyond all that. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously, it is the Paravidya.
Okay.
That's
Anybody
what
else
I
wants
think.
to uh, give their views?
the thing is, it says, which is cannot be seen, invisible, and then it says that you cannot catch it, ungraspable, and then it says it has no
No, so the
varna.
question is, Gauri, the question is this describing Paravidya or no?
This is this is Paravidya.
Okay.
It is describing the Paravidya. Apara Vidya, we have already done the Rig Veda, Yajurveda, all those things are our Apara, which
Okay.
tells us how
Any
to.
other view is there? Anybody else wants to share their views on that?
This is not, I
Yeah.
don't think it is teaching either para or apara. What it is telling is that inconceivable or not accessible to our indriyas, that entity creates what is accessible to our indriyas. That's all it is saying. It's not talking about paravidya or apavidya, but it is definitely telling what is accessible to our indriyas. What we see is the creation of that unmanifest force. That's all it's saying.
Good view.
I think it's conveying the Paravidya with the last word Dhira, uh, by saying that ki once you, this is the main aspect that you need to develop to know that Akshara that we introduced in the fifth verse.
Correct, correct. Actually, Raunak is right. See,
It is correct.
Anuj, the whole of knowledge is split into para and apara. So there's nothing beyond that now. Either it will be para or it will be apara. Anything which is related to um, the world or even knowledge of God, just kind of bookish knowledge, is apara, and knowledge of God is para. So here in this Kandika, when we are saying Adreshyam, Agrayam, etc., etc., that is again bookish knowledge, which you will get in Rig Veda, Yajurveda, etc. as well. But the part which is describing the Paravidya is Yad Bhut Yonim Paripashyanti Dhiraha. The seers see him everywhere. This is just a description. It is not that you are going to become like those seers, but it is telling you that when a seer sees Brahma, then he can see him everywhere, and that is the Paravidya. So, to that extent, this that is describing Paravidya. Now, if we go into the okay, I also wanted to ask you about the Karanas. I want to see that you have understood the Karanas properly. So I would, if somebody can describe Nimitta Karan, that would be good.
Nimitta Karan is the
Nim-
intent or the motivation to do a act.
The one who has.
Yeah.
So not the
motivation.
motivation itself, but the
Yeah, the person who's
person or thing that has provides the motive.
motivation.
Right. Okay, then material cause Upadan Karan.
on which the motivation is applied, the action is applied.
That is too generic. Motivation will be applied on a whole lot of things.
It is the pre-transformative material which is
Correct.
present, used to create through the transformation to achieve the result, which is the final.
So it is the thing which itself is transforming. So of all the things which are participating in a particular transformation, there are only one or a few things which actually undergo change. So those things are called upadan karanas. Okay. Then what is samanya karan or general cause? Somebody else now.
Basically, the more efficient cause needs something to transform the material cause into the result, and all that plays a role for the efficient cause to carry out this transformation belongs to general cause.
Correct. So all the auxiliary causes which participate in the transformation, but they neither provide the motivation for it, nor do they provide the material for it, are all classified under samanya karan. Okay, so we will be understanding little more, but in the seventh kandika, when we said
So you can say both efficient cause and general cause have a temporary role, material cause has a permanent role.
okay, fair enough, fair enough. So where we read yad bhuta yonim, so the one who is the yoni of all the bhutas, of all the created things, the thing that is the cause, that thing is this akshara. So that karan over there is the nimitta karan, because he is not becoming part of these objects. He is only providing the motivation. So we will be studying more about that motivational aspect of him in the coming kandikas.
Oh, so that means he is not all pervading.
He is.
If he is not part of the result, then he is only a nimitta karana.
Yeah. So
Then he is not all
even though
pervading.
he pervades everything, he is not part of that thing. He is untouched by atoms. He is untouched, just like your soul is untouched by the atoms of this body which you are occupying. You are occupying it, but you are untouched by it. Similarly, he is untouched by my body while he is residing within my body. So, and of course, he is residing outside. So, because he is so sukshma, that is why he is so subtle that none of these things can touch him.
Okay. Or can we say because there is a permanent role of the efficient cause in the universe, it's not like a one-time role like making a pot and forgetting it. Since there is a permanent role, there is a permanent all-pervasive presence. You can say that?
I wouldn't give a cause and effect reason there. He's not all pervasive because he has to play a role all the time. He is all pervasive. That's how he is.
Okay.
And
Two different things. Okay.
yeah, in fact, he is beyond the universe as well. So that is the way he is. Some things are just swabhava. You cannot explain things beyond a certain point. So this is the way he is, just like we are the way we are.
Okay. Basically, everything else is finite when you look at this infinite pervasive entity. Okay.
Okay. Yes, sure. Okay. So now we come to the seventh shloka. Any views you would like to air at this point on the very little one-line description which I had given you people?
It
Okay.
basically nicely picturizes the role of this Nimitta Karana of Brahman in the Jagat with a very nice, understandable upama of the
Correct.
web of a
The-
spider.
Yes. So the next three shlokas actually will be describing that nimitta karan bhav of his. How is he the nimitta karan? So there are three upamas which are there over here. Let us repeat this shloka once again.
Uttara, one
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
See, here you said that he creates during the kalpa and destroys during the pralaya.
Mhm.
How does this kalpa and this the second auxiliary science called kalpa? I mean, how do they compare?
Oh, Yeah, good. You have brought the two things together. Yeah, so that is, see, kalp is, creating something means kalp. So that is why Srishti is also called kalpa, and this creating of the yajna Vedi and
Okay.
performing the yajna is also called kalpa. So
Okay.
per
So
se,
the
there is
meaning,
no uh, connection in the meaning.
so
Other than the
meaning of
fact,
kalp is actually creation or
yeah, creation.
okay. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, so please unmute yourself and we will repeat this shlok first. यथोर्णनाभिः सृजते गृणते च
यतोर्णनाभिः सृजते गृह्णते च
यथा पृथिव्यामोषधयः सम्भवन्ति
यथा पृथिव्याम् ओषधयः सम्भवन्ति
यथा सतः पुरुषात् केशलोमानि
यथा सतः पुरुषात् केशलोमानि
तथाक्षरात् सम्भवतीह विश्वम्
तथाक्षरात् भवतीह विश्वम्.
So we have three upamas here describing the creation of this universe by God. So the first one says that the way the spider creates its web and then also consumes it. If it doesn't like one portion, it just swallows it up. Like that, God also creates this universe and also takes it back in. So during the period of Kalpa, he creates the universe, and during the period of Pralaya, he destroys it. So Kalpa and Pralaya, these are two phases of the universe, not of the universe actually, of things beyond the universe, in fact. So these are called Brahma Dina and Brahma Rat. So Brahma Ratri. So during the day of Brahma, that is God, this universe exists, and during the night of God, the universe is dissolved. So during this period of creation is equal to the period of uh, the night. So the day and night periods are actually equal, and God is supposed to be resting during that phase of night, just like beings rest. So that is what is indicated in this first upama. Then we say yatha prithivyam oshadhayah sambhavanti. As trees and herbs, don't understand oshadhi as just herbs here, but all plants, as they come out of this earth, from the soil, they are generated. So also the universe is generated from God. So here the implication is, don't take this to mean that that is the material cause, because in a sense the soil becomes the material cause of the plants, because the nutrients are picked up by the plant, water is picked up by the plant. So you should not take it that way. Even in the spider case, you should not treat it as a material cause, but only the efficient cause. So the implication here is that just like the soil provides a uniform medium on which all kinds of plants grow. So that is why this Oshadaya is in plural, that not only one type of plant, but everything grows and everything has uh, the ability to draw whatever it needs from that soil. So there is no pakshapat. There is God does not play sides. It's not as if he will give something more to somebody and something less to somebody. It's just like the soil gives all its resources equally to all the plants. Now it is up to the plants to take whatever they can utilize. So similarly, God provides a level playing field. Yatha satah purushat keshalomani. Just like from a living person, particularly this is a reference to a human being, you have the long hair and the short hair coming out of the body. So also things come out of this akshara. Again, please do not treat this as a material cause. This upama is telling us that just like you don't have to put in an effort to make your hair grow, they come out by themselves. Similarly, very little effort is required by God in physical terms to make uh, this universe come out. What effort is required, that we will now read in the next couple of verses. But otherwise, it comes out as if naturally. So, what is actually implied by naturally also is that if you go looking for God in this whole thing and try and prove Him through sensory means, by just like you would prove the law of gravity or something like that, you now try to prove God and you say that, see, this tree is growing, or there was a big bang. How could it have been without God? You will never be able to prove it, because the way he has structured things, they seem to be happening automatically. You cannot see his interference in any of it. He has put in the laws of nature. He does tweak them. I'm not saying that he does not tweak them. When he has to give you a phala, a consequence for your action, he does do something by which it happens. But that whatever he did, you will never be able to show his interference in it. It will happen naturally. So something like that is also implied over here. Tatha aksharat sambhavati iha vishwam. In the same way, this all these things which we see here come out of God. Again, please be very careful. Don't treat this as a material cause. Understand this only as a efficient cause, as a nimitta karan. Clear? Is there any?
No, I have a query.
Tell me.
See, material cause is also an akshara. So why can't this shloka, this verse be of material cause? This and the previous one.
This and the previous one. But then
Prakati,
how will you apply adrishyam, agrahyam, agotam, avarnam?
so the Prakati in its the root form is still the same, right? We cannot.
But you are talking of the world, no? You have moved out of the root form. So you have moved into the universe, and we are saying this universe that we see around us.
Where we are saying we are.
You are saying in the one before, here definitely we are saying Sambhavati iha Vishwam. And there also when you say Paripashyanti Dhiraha, Yad Bhuta Yonim. Bhuta Yonim, when you are saying, then that means Bhutas are there.
So Bhut Yonim, Prakriti can also be Bhut Yonim because the Panch Bhut are actually came out of Prakriti. And here also, for example, spider web and all these things are like different creations of the Prakriti, forms of the Prakriti which we experience.
So see,
But
while
Raunak, how can see he has been defined as not describable by tangible methods. So the upamas have to be worldly, otherwise how will they be upamas? If it's an unworldly upama, you neither the source nor the upama is understandable. So just because the upamas use worldly objects, source to result thing, you don't need to conclude that it is talking about Prithvi. I think the goal continues to be the Paramatma.
I'm talking about Prakriti.
To some extent, what he is saying is correct, and you will find that always when we are talking of God, you can actually put the soul also there, and in this particular case, as he is saying, you can put matter also over there. But see, when you are saying tad avyayam, uska nash nahi hota, and sarvagatam, vibhum, Nityam,
Prati
okay,
is also.
Nityam you can apply, but Sarvagatam, that is why I told you Sarvagatam does not mean all pervasive, which the commentators have taken, but it means that knows everything which is happening. So those things are not properties of Prakriti. So you have to take the context of Akshara, which we started from in the fifth Kandika, which says Atha Parayaya Tad Aksharam Adhigamyate. So from there only this Akshara description has started, and we are now moving into that description. So while you are right that some of his properties are shared by Prakriti, but in this context, it is not talking of Prakriti. Similarly, when you are saying that from that root Prakriti, everything else is created, yes, that is correct. But here it is not talking of that creation. It is talking of the Akshara Paramatma only, who is creating all these things, as will become further clearer as we read the next two.
Yeah, but
The
I
reason
guess to
why.
Raunak's point, whereas there is a map for Prithvi or more Prakriti, I think he wishes to use the Prakriti term, which is more primordial. Without discounting his argument that even Prakriti applies as the material cause for these creations, the examples as they describe, even God as the Nimitta Karana. So you can take it as a overlapping Shlesha, which points to Paramatma as the Nimitta and the Prakriti
No,
as
no, no, no,
the.
no, 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 no. Shlesha is not there. Shlesha is not there. This is talking of Paramatman only. See, that is why I always tell you that Bhasha is a incomplete tool. It will never be complete unless you keep the context in mind. If you lose sight of the context, then 2, 2, 3, 3 meanings will start appearing. So never lose sight of the context. And here the context is that of Paramatman. And that
Yeah,
will
from the previous verse, that is what is carrying forth there.
and it will also continue into the next two Kandikas. So I will stop this session here and we'll meet on the other side because only some 3 minutes are left. Okay.